We'd appreciate it. All right, but welcome everybody. Welcome to our resume workshop for 2020, COVID quarantine edition resume workshop. So for those of you guys that don't know me personally, I'm John Baker, East Riverside District Manager, accompanied by the Riverside District Manager, Lindsay. She's actually going to be the one that's going to be walking you guys step by step on how to build your resumes the proper way. And the reason why we want to do this workshop is just so you guys can maximize your full experience with Vector this summer and get all your accomplishments and know how to present it the right way to a future employer or maybe a dean for a college or getting into internships later on. Me and Lindsay, we both have interviewed hundreds of applicants just this year. And trust me, we see a lot of really, really bad resumes, like a lot of really, really bad ones. And we see a lot of really great ones. And I want to make sure you guys are getting like the best stuff on your resume, because the goal is to turn you guys into 5-star recruits and turn you guys into leaders. And I want you guys to be more marketable in the workplace and get the most out of this. So we're going to be talking about the resume workshop, how to build your resume, what to put on it, what to highlight, and what to kind of keep off your resume and what not to do as well. And then we're also going to talk about leadership positions towards the end. I'll wrap us up with covering, well, actually, Evan Keller is going to wrap us up talking about like TLA and what you need to do to get into it. And I'll also show you guys like how to interview properly and how to come prepared for your Leadership Academy interview with Evan Keller this week. So other than that, let's get rolling. And then I also want us to like kind of like finish off everything with just like a quick little phone jam to make sure we have some demos for Monday. But I'm gonna pass it over to Lindsay, our Riverside District Manager. She's been doing this for a while, guys, and she has a super impressive resume. So take it away, Lindsay.
There we go. Hello, can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect. If I cough during this, sorry, I went on a hike. Was not prepared for it. Go ahead and pull up your laptops, por favor. So I'm going to show you guys some examples, walk through kind of the basics for 101. What should you put on a resume? As John said, what should you leave off the resume? How are you going to word things? I'm going to talk a lot about the Vector job and selling Cutco knives and how to professionally word that on a resume. I will touch a little bit on other jobs you guys might have had. I realize some of you on here, this was your first job ever. Some of you have held jobs before. Some of you might have volunteer work on your resume. So I'll talk about kind of what to have, what to take off, and as you get more experience, how you promote the different things that you do. Now, while I go over everything, I'm going to recommend don't make your resume right now. Instead, take a little bit of notes, because after this, I'm going to share a folder with all of you here where it'll have some sample resumes from a rep to an AM to what it could potentially look like for a branch for any of you that are interested or have that on your radar here for branching of what your resume could potentially look like here. So this is not necessarily the time to do an in-depth make my resume. It's more so, all right, I have an idea of what I should do, what I should put on it. Now I'll go make it before the TLA interview. So I know some of you are vying for a TLA interview with Evan. A lot of you on this call probably are here, whether you've already hit the sales requirement, now you're just looking to be consistent, make a name before he does the interview for you. Some of you I know are really, really close in sales, so this will be kind of the next step of what all of you need to do. So that way you present it to Evan, and then I'll talk also about a cover letter, as I assume most of you probably aren't super familiar with that, what you do, adding on to it, and then I'll also send all of you a doc as well. So first things first with an interview, I'm going to talk about the cover letter here. So I'm going to share my screen. You're just going to see a few different examples. Like I said, hopefully all of you can see this here. I'll go full screen in just a minute. Okay, so with the cover letter in your notes, here's what you want to write down. The cover letter introduces yourself to the hiring manager or whoever is going to be running your interview. Gives them reasons why you should be accepted. And more importantly, is tailored to fit the job or role, or in this case for Leadership Academy, why you want to be accepted. So what you should not do is, Andrew's on my screen here, so I'll use an example. He should not make a cover letter and say, all right, every job I ever applied for, let me just change the name. Boom, done. Now, most of this will probably stay fairly the same. Like, Edward, your accomplishments are still going to be there in a year or two. So some of those will stay the same. Where it's going to vary is depending on what position that you're applying for. You want to talk about skills that are going to be good for that job. So for TLA, what is Evan looking for? Talks about sales consistency, work ethic, attitude. Any type of leadership experience you've done here, perfect. Any trophies, any awards, anytime you were in the rankings, perfect, add that on. But talking about those skills and tying it to what you've done in Cutco and outside of Cutco is what he's going to be looking for. So you'll get the example of 2 different cover letters here. I did one for John's. I think this is your old office by now, but I did one for the example of like his old office here. You introduce yourself with your name, put address, phone number, Gmail, and then whenever the interview day is, you're going to change it. So let's say Evan says, all right, Yolanda, your interview is on Wednesday. Make sure you put the day for Wednesday. It's just the little things, but these little things are going to impress future employers that you do, and they're going to notice and say like, oh, Kyle, I saw you notice you put the exact date. You actually change it. You make sure you spell their name correctly. Now, Evan Keller, Mr. Evan Keller, pretty easy name to spell. Hopefully all of you would agree. But you're going to get some employers where they will have a difficult name. Please make sure you spell it correctly. I don't know who's not muted too, but make sure you mute yourself. Okay, and then you're just going to introduce yourself by saying, please give me an opportunity, consider me for Leadership Academy, this position, this volunteer experience. I feel that this would be a great way for X. Talk a little bit about your accomplishments here. So for a lot of you, this will probably be very similar, where you've graduated from high school recently, or you're going into your 1st and 2nd year of college. Maybe honor roll, maybe you're part of National Honor Society, maybe it was a volunteer club that you did, something outside of school that you've done. And then you can also talk about Vector and Cutco and what you've done here. Now, a cover letter should be short, sweet, to the point. You'll notice this is not the full page. It's just a couple paragraphs here, and it's designed to set the right impression, because we're going to teach you how to write a killer resume, but at the end of the day, realize the average employer looks at a resume for about 10 to 15 seconds. They're going to spend more time on your cover letter because that's where you're personally introducing yourself to them. The resume is just an opportunity to show them what experiences you've done. Now, with Vector, for any of you, when and if you leave the company, they will ask you what Vector is, I promise you. What experience? What did you do? How much did you sell? Tell me about your summer selling knives. That's a pretty crazy experience. What did you learn? What were your responsibilities? But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the resume they're asking about, it's the experience. So you do want it to look professional. I'll cover how to do that. You do want to make sure that you do everything concisely, but at the end of the day, understand you also don't want it to be 10 pages long. So I'm going to talk about kind of different tips for resumes here. Okay, if you have your resume already created, you can pull it up and I might just highlight different things on it, or make a note, or put an X, or say I should do this instead with it, for those of you that already have it created. If you don't already have it created, as a heads up, you can use some of these templates. So I'm going to go through the rep one here in just a minute. You can use some of these templates and just copy and paste and change everything to fit you. They also, on Google Drive, if any of you are not familiar, if you click a new doc and you right click it, there are resume templates. So let's say Xavier's like, I want to spice this up a little bit. Okay, there's different templates you can use to spice it up. They're all around the same. The only thing I would personally recommend for all of you, some of you might have seen templates before where there's things written here and then also things on the side. I don't know if any of this is sounding familiar to some of you, like skills are over here, talks about, don't do that. Perfect example, Kyle. Thank you. Yeah, it's great when you're beginning, but as you get more, it's going to get too confusing where it's bouncing back and forth. You want everything laid out like this where you're just scrolling down. Now, first thing I want everyone to take a note of, this is the rep example. How many pages is this? 1. Until you start having years and years of job experience, please do not make your resume longer than 1 page. Trust me, you can fit it all on there. Those of you, when you run a branch, you have my permission to make it 2 pages. It should not be longer than 2 pages. There are people that I have seen that have 3 pages and they don't even have a job when they're interviewing. I'm like, what do you fill this with? So make sure it is concise. All right. Pretty basic ones. Education, you should all know to put on there as well. High school, college. Once you've graduated from college, you can usually leave off your high school. Until you have graduated from college, I would put what high school you attended. And then also, if it's not local for any of you to where you're applying, you might want to put just the state or the city and state of where it is. Okay, for sales representative. Now, just out of show of hands, I'm clicking through here. Who, Vector was your first job? I know that was not a sentence, but who on here where Vector is your first job? Scrolling through. Okay, I've got a handful of you. Okay, go all out for this one. If it's your first job, you want to write as many different things that highlight yourself as possible. Now, if it's not your first job, stay tuned. I'm going to talk about it here in a second. So for those of you where it's your first job here, you start with the training seminar. So graduated from a 2-day college accredited professional business and sales seminar, professionally communicated with customers virtually from the point of contact to close. Now you can change this a little bit. I've seen people say virtually communicated with customers, virtually presented Cutco knives. You can throw in Cutco if you would like. The one thing that's going to stand out for all of you is virtually, where in 2020 during the pandemic, you made the decision to work 100% from home online, and whatever sales result that you got, I'll talk about that here in a little bit too, matters. But at the end of the day, that's not what is going to impress the employers the most. It's the fact that during this pandemic, you guys made the moves and gals made the moves to work and better yourselves and grow your client base and your skills. All right, with the orders, sales, and clients. This is going to vary because I know all of you on the call are at different sales levels. So one thing I might talk about, if you are less than, and Baker, you can add to this too, with mine as well. I would say if you're less than 100 clients, I might leave that off. Some of this I might leave a little bit or adjust it. Or for some of you are saying like, okay, well, I'm at 6K, I'm at 8K. I don't have 64 orders. I've got 30, I've got 25, I've got 40. You can also all just talk about how many presentations that you've done. If the sales level isn't where you want it to be, you can also talk about how many presentations you've done. You can talk about your closing percentage. You can talk about how many different clients that have purchased from you. So there's different ways to adjust it where some of you might have different average orders than others. If it is above the national average of 300, you can also write about that. For example, I maintained an average order of $400 versus our company average of 300, or I think now it's like 325. Also with the promotions, you can talk about this. Now, on this one, when they're talking about awards and recognition, it's up to all of you where you want to put that. I would, for any of you, for the sales representative that have achieved President's Club letter, different promotions as far as the sales promotions go, put that on your resume. If you are in the running for a scholarship, you put that in your resume too, and there's different ways to highlight that here. And then you can also talk about the weekly meetings and the sales conferences all of you have attended. So when you go to SC2, SC3, SC1, for those of you in the beginning of the summer too, you can add those to your resumes because those are business growth conferences. You'll notice with this too, there is a professional way to describe what we do. Please, please do not put on your resume, I sold knives for a... Please do not put on your resume, describe what we do. Very delayed. So please do not put that. Put what you did. So virtual presentations, there might be a few of you on here that even have done in-person presentations. So you can talk about the balance. I see Teresa, yeah, you're nodding, I remember. You can talk about, I not only did in-person presentations and talk about your 10K fast start too, I also switched to do 100% online presentations during a pandemic and was able to sell however X amount you sold for the summertime. All right, those of you with other jobs, I'm not going to go too much in depth because there's millions of different jobs that you can do. My piece of advice with this is if you've had another job and your responsibilities at that job are in your title, please do not put a bullet point of everything that you've done. For example, if you worked at, let's say my favorite one is McDonald's, and you were a cashier, does everyone on this call have a good idea of what a cashier at McDonald's does? Even if you've never worked at McDonald's. Like, you all could probably describe it to me, the basics. That means your employers will also know what you probably did at McDonald's as a cashier. So what I did instead, and you all can Google this, is I just pulled up the key things that employers are looking for in leaders. So instead of just saying, I was a cashier at McDonald's, I handled money, I swept the floors, I cleaned the back room, I made burgers, whatever it is that your responsibility, talk about how you were able to delegate a task, lead a team, communicate effectively with your peers. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows what you do at retail jobs. Everybody knows. We all know what you do at Starbucks. We all know what you do at fast food. Now, if you had a different job where it's something that is not self-explanatory based on the name, go in depth a little bit on your responsibilities. But employers want to see how you communicated with your team and how you managed the task that you did, not the specific task. Let me make that clear. How you managed the task you were given, not just individually the task you were given. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, those types of jobs, I would say 2 or 3 bullet points. I'll come back to that. There we go. No, there we go. So 2 or 3 bullet points. And then if you've had 1 or 2 jobs before this, some of you might have had more. Every other job before this, if you're putting it on your resume, I would say take out 1 bullet point from Vector or combine the 2. For example, you could say generated a network of over 200 clients and 64 orders. Combine the 2. Once you've had at least 2 jobs on your resume, leave out volunteer work. Por favor, leave out volunteer work. No offense to all of you. Volunteering is amazing. Everybody volunteers. I'm told it's actually a requirement in California for a lot of your schools to volunteer. So everybody has done it. Now, if you got an award, let's say Tyler was volunteering here and he received some award for the amount of community service he did, heck yeah, put that on your awards and recognition. But if you were just like, yeah, I volunteered because it was a requirement for my high school, leave that off. And then you'll notice with this one, this will be kind of the last thing I talk about real quick. For the high school here, when you're creating this too, same thing, if you had any awards that you received with the high schools, I'll get to the chat box here in just a second. if you had any awards with the high school, once you've had a couple jobs, I would make sure the only one that I put on there is the most impressive one. Things that would be impressive, like all-star athlete, valedictorian, salutatorian. Now, if you received an award for other things, not that they're not important, just they won't necessarily stand out to your employer, because especially as all of you guys start to get older, graduate college, you have to realize at the end of the day, a lot of people have done these things. A lot of people have done these things. So you want things that are going to stand out and make you marketable to your employer. At the bottom is just any extra awards you won. And then skills that you want to talk about too. I would definitely put Zoom skills in the virtual world that we are in. Time management, organization. You'll notice talking about closing in business, how to market on social media. Anything that's virtual, put down as a skill that you've got. Okay, I'm going to stop share for just a second. I'll check the chat here for general questions.
Can I also say something like on like the skills?
Yes, please.
Don't just say like, hey, like I'm proficient at Excel and Word, right? Like everybody is. That's like one of the most things I never understood why people put on their resume, or like I know how to operate a computer, right? Like I don't think that is super necessary to put on there. And then what I put in the chat box for you, Lindsay, was also you want to highlight like the push weeks, right? We just got out of a push week, and you can talk about like, well, I did this amount of appointments in a 2-week period. Like I conducted over 40 presentations with customers in a 2-week period. I had produced this result, and I was able to be in the top. Companies like to see percentages. Like I was in the top 10% in my entire division or in my office. All that stuff also looks really well on your resume.
Yeah, it's a great one. I didn't even touch on that. So thank you, John. And then I got a couple messages, both very similar, about mission trips and volunteer work. To answer your guys' question, yes, if it applies directly to the position, 100% you can talk about it. The only thing you don't want to have on your resume is just a list of different volunteer places that you've done once or twice or 3 times, or even if you go weekly, but it doesn't have anything to do with the job you're applying for. Leave it off and talk about that in the interview. So we'll cover a couple interview tips here for how to present yourself. In the resume, what employers want to see and what managers and hiring managers want to see is how you present yourself. So a resume could be really impressive, but if you don't know how to communicate about what you've done, not that it means nothing, but it doesn't mean much at the end of the day. Okay, any other questions on making your resume here?
While people are, if you guys have questions, let us know. But something else I also wanted to highlight as well. As you guys know, like there's a lot of fonts that you guys can kind of go with, like built in on your computer, on like Pages on Apple or on Word documents. Try to stay away from like the super weird colors, right? Like sometimes people think like, oh, if I do my resume on hot pink paper, I'll stand out more. Yes, you will stand out more, but then also that kind of scares some people, right? Because a lot of like older people that are interviewing you, they're more conservative, right? So you want to try to keep it like crisp and clean as possible. Try not to like add too many designs on there where there's like butterflies and like spirals going in there. But then it also depends on like what interview you're applying for. If you're applying for like an art director position and it's like creativity is a part of it, that's okay. But if you're applying to be a secretary, right, that might be a little bit too much. So just know like your when and where to do certain things for your interview. But then you also don't want to just be super basic. Just it needs to look crisp and professional. And you can always like Google examples. You can always reach out to your managers and run your resume by them even like if you're long gone, like I plan on like keeping in touch with all of you guys like for a while, and you're like, hey John, no, I don't work with you anymore, but could you just check over this resume before I go embarrass myself? Right? So like stuff like that. All right. But
And
if you
then
guys have any, oh, go ahead, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say one thing I noticed that's not on here too. References. Please don't put down your family members. I would rather you not have any references, and you can talk about your experience with your jobs or volunteering, or when you eventually move on from Cutco at some point, your experience with Cutco, then you put down your mom or your dad or a sibling. As you get more professional references, add those for right now. All of you can put down John or I as a reference. And then one more person that I might put, I would not put Evan, I would put directly John or I, unless you get to the point where you are running a branch, working very closely with Evan and you get his permission. Otherwise, someone in your life that was the head of a like volunteer experience, was your coordinator, worked with you directly, that would be a perfect person. Old bosses, for those that have jobs, try to avoid teachers. As soon as you get a professional reference, try to avoid teachers, because yes, they're great, but they also see 500 students and they will also always say nice things about you. It's not always going to be the direct truth. It is always going to be something nice and sweet. So if you're going to add references, it's not a requirement. You can definitely put down one or two, especially as you start to advance here, but I just wanted to touch on that.
Cool. So should we transition? If you guys have any other like resume questions, like put them in the chat box. We're happy to answer them throughout the time. But I want to transition into how to show up properly for the interviews. All right. So I'm going to be talking mainly geared towards like the Leadership Academy interviews, like with Evan. But these are also just like very important interview tips, just kind of going forward. And it's going to be Zoom based, because that's the world that we're in right now, like a Zoom based interview. I think that's more important to talk about versus an in-person one at the moment. So if you wanted to just title your notes like interview tips, we'll go with that. All right. So tip number one is be Zoom ready. So what I mean by that is look at your screen right now. All right. Well, we can use my screen. We can use Lindsay's screen as an example, right? Like you notice our backgrounds are very simple, right? It's very simple, decent lighting. You should be able to like see me, right? If you look like, have you guys ever seen those crime scenes where they have like the hidden person that wants to hide their face? If you look like that, you should not go into your interview, all right? So that is like a big no-no. Your interviewer should be able to see your face clearly. Then the second thing you want to do is when you do set up your lighting, right? Let's say you don't have like a circle light. Like I have like a nice like circle light right here in front of me, but let's say you don't have that. You want to face the window, all right? So for example, don't have the window behind you. If the window is behind you, you're always going to get that shadowy look, all right? You want to be facing the window. All right, so that way it's going to give you nice lighting, right? And even if you have like a little like table lamp, you can just set that next to you. It just gives you a little bit more lighting makes you a little bit more crisp. You want to try to eliminate as much background distractions. All right, so Kyle, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Right, you have a lot of stuff going on in your background, and I think your closet's open. Right, that you would definitely not want that in an interview, right? Because now it kind of makes me more curious. I'm like, what's in this closet, right? Is that Uno? Oh, I love the game Uno. And what that does is it distracts you from the actual interview, right? You want the interviewer focused on you and you only, right? I would even challenge like this sword right here in my background. That could be a little distracting. You're like, why does that guy have a dagger, right? I'm concerned, right? So you want to keep it crisp and clean and clear. The third thing I would definitely do is do like a little test, all right? So you should be doing this for your presentations anyways, maybe get a buddy or somebody that's on the team or mom or dad, and have them go on their Zoom and make sure they can hear you, right? Sound quality is important, making sure you're not choppy, making sure you don't cut in and out. Because sometimes you might think your Zoom is perfect, right? You're like, oh man, I look good, everything sounds good. But on the other interview, like my biggest pet peeve during this is like when I'm talking to somebody and it keeps chopping out, keeps cutting out, and things like that. So we want it to be as smooth as possible. Now, if you know that you have terrible internet, try to go in like the spot of your house where the internet's really good, or go somewhere else, right? Like sometimes you might have to drive to a coffee shop where you can get better internet and like post up outside the coffee shop or something like that. But you want to just make sure you come across super clearly. So that's like my tips as far as like doing it, like getting your Zoom set up. Now I kind of want to talk a little bit about your dress attire, and Lindsay, we can tag team on this right here. I'll talk for like the gentlemen. I'll have Lindsay talk for all the ladies. But for guys, don't interview with a hat on. All right, that is like number one, right? And I know I love wearing hats. I know many of you guys probably like wearing hats, but it's just not professional. I'm not sure if you guys remember back into the olden days where you had to remove your hat before you walked into a room, and that was a sign of respect, right? So same thing with your interview, same type of concept. So just always remove your hat when you're going to do an interview or you're in class and stuff like that. That's just like a respect thing. I know it's like a old school philosophy, but it just shows people respect. With that being said, don't have bedhead, all right? So make sure your hair is done up. I see a couple of you guys on here look like you're just laying down, right? You don't want to look like you just woke up, right? So just kind of like organize your hair a little bit, because you got to remember, your first impression is your last impression for most people. So you got to definitely show up the right way, right? If you give them any little thing that are like, I don't think this guy's ready. He doesn't seem like he's prepared. He doesn't seem like he's focused. And you got to remember, that's what an interview is. I know we say don't judge people, don't prejudge, but that's what's happening during the interview. So you want to make sure you present your best self. All right. Now, also with that being said, how you dress. So right now it's like a Sunday. We're kind of all relaxed, right? So I wouldn't even say wearing a polo shirt would be acceptable for an interview, right? That's where you want to put in like a collared shirt, a button-up shirt. If you know how to tie a tie, wear a tie. If you don't know how to tie a tie, look up a YouTube video and it'll teach you how to tie a tie. All right. Don't try to go in there being all slick and looking like suavecito with your shirt halfway like unbuttoned, showing your chest hairs and stuff like that. That is not impressive, right? So you want to make sure you come dressed with a tie. And I hate wearing ties as much as the next guy, but again, your first impression is your last impression, right? So buckle it up, right? And I promise, that's how I learned how to tie a tie, was a YouTube video. So just learn it. It's a skill set that you're just going to need forever for formal events. You might not be required to wear a tie for that job, but you still want to make sure you leave a lasting impression, because here's how I interview people. When I interview somebody, and some of you guys might have got interviewed by me, but I'm looking for the future, right? I'm not just looking for someone that's going to work for me for like a week or two. I'm looking for somebody that I'm going to build an empire with, right? So like somebody that I'm like, this Kyle guy that's wearing a turtleneck, he would not be in an assistant manager category, right? But Micah, who came in like suited and booted, nice and tie, like I think that guy could be an assistant manager later on, right? So Kyle, I would probably not do a turtleneck, right? We don't want to look like The Rock, right? Where you're like trying to be there for all the ladies, right? We're trying to get a career, right? So that, just also remember that, right? Like you're fresh for like going out with your buddies, or I don't know, you guys know what you guys do, right? That's not probably acceptable for an interview, all right? So you're not trying to impress the ladies, you're trying to impress the ladies' dad, right? So think about it like that. So, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit of in-person interview tips, because as things start to open up, you guys are going to need to know that too. Make sure your breath smells good. All right. Make sure you brush your teeth. Just be safe. Just play it safe. That's what I always say. Right. I don't know if you have stinky breath or not, but let's not risk it. Let's not get called out on it. Right. Something I like to do is have like mints or gum just nearby, right? You just never know, especially with our job, we talk a lot, and you just want to make sure that you're always on point right there, and all that good stuff, right? But just look sharp, right? If you don't know what sharp looks like, just look up business casual, business professional on Instagram, right? You'll find a lot of really great stuff. All right, but Lindsay, I'll let you talk about the ladies and then anything else that I miss.
Yeah, so ladies, it's pretty simple. I probably wouldn't wear what I'm wearing right now to my first interview. Those of you that work with me know, like, I'm pretty modern with clothing where, like, I'll wear blouses that show my shoulders. I don't have a problem with that because I've worked here long enough to where I've gained the confidence where I can present myself with that. But with that being said, I would say, especially in this go, guys or girls, dress up a little bit more than you would dress up for the best events, because realize all of you are young as well. It's really easy for me to portray confidence, say I'm the manager, when I've been doing this for 5.5 years. You know, John's been doing this for, I think, 7 or 8 years now, maybe more. Like, we've got this established. So he can wear a polo and you guys are like, we know John's the boss. But your first time, like he said, working with someone and doing an interview, that's your best impression that you need to set. So for ladies, I always tend to assume anybody that's interviewing me is probably going to have a conservative mindset. Most people nowadays don't, but what does this mean? I would close my shoulders with a blazer or make sure my blouse is at least mid-arm length. I have a couple tattoos, make sure they're covered. Now, most people don't have a problem with tattoos nowadays, but you've all probably ran into someone who is not fond of tattoos. And if that's the person running your interview, that is not a good thing. So I would hide those. When you're doing in-person interviews, of course, you want like pencil skirt or dress pants, something like that. Blouse is good, button down is good. Women's suit, I highly recommend investing in, where it's like a blazer and pants that match. Now we can pull off a little bit more of bolder colors. And some of this is like pre-TLA, because Evan teaches interviewing 101 to the nines. We can pull off a little bit more of bolder colors, but please no bold makeup. Like no blue eyeshadow, no glitter. That's fine. Hanging out with your friends. Please do not do that on an interview. And then I tend to think that if you're going to go bold on lips, go lighter on eyes. If you're going to go bolder on eyes, go lighter on lips. If you don't wear makeup, you don't have to wear makeup if that's just not your thing. But just like John said, make sure your hair looks good. If you're going to wear your hair down, just make sure it's put to the side so you're not constantly adjusting in the interview, because interviewers will notice that. And it could be a nervous habit. It could just be something where they get distracted by your hair. Either way, not a good thing. So up or down is fine. No messy buns. So Raquel, it's fine for right now. I know you just got off work, but no messy buns in the interview. Either ponytail or put down in a professional way. Everything else like that, like jewelry, don't go excessive. Guys, don't go excessive on jewelry either. Please don't wear a ring on every single finger. But that's kind of the basics. Interviewing, I think the biggest part to it, and all of you probably are aware of this too, is just suit up, look really good, make sure you present yourself really well. In person, make sure you're dressed really well from head to toe. And especially for heels, don't wear anything you're going to fall in. If it looks like it belongs on a night out on the town, leave it there. All right,
Awesome.
that's what I got.
All right, cool. And then I just wanted to answer a quick question. Micah asked the question, since I work both as an AM and a sales rep, how do I divide talking about what I do in both roles on my resume? Do you have the answer to that? You're muted, Lindsay.
I am muted, yes. No, I'm not. Good question. So you're going to see in the folder that I send out, it's going to have an AM example. I know that only hits on a couple of you. So I won't pull it up here to go in depth about it, but biggest thing with an AM is you'll see some of the examples of what you post. Once you have achieved that role, talk a little bit less about the sales rep. So you'll still put that down, but then you'll have a new role. So you won't need to have 10 bullet points, 8 bullet points, 7 on the sales rep because your new role is an assistant manager. But it's a good question, yeah.
All right, cool. So if you guys have any other questions on like how to show up for your interview with Evan, I think the last thing I would just like to add to that is also have some questions for your interviewer, right? That's sometimes that's usually really impressive to most people that interview you. That like, oh, okay, cool. Raquel, she did her research, right? Or she did her due diligence, and she's ready, she's prepared, and she has things that she wants to know. So I think that's really important as well. Now, speaking of TLA, I want us to wrap up on this. So I'm going to be playing a video that Evan recorded for this group right here. And basically, I want to just kind of tee it up a little bit. So at the end of summer conference number 3, you heard Evan talking a lot about the Leadership Academy, right? And Leadership Academy is designed for all of you guys. We want to turn you guys into 5-star recruits. So what a 5-star recruit is, this is the most sought after individual that companies die to, they try to steal these types of representatives from our company all the time, right? That's how you know you're like a 5-star recruit, is when everybody is like trying to get you to work for their company. And that is a compliment, and it's a positive thing. So I want to just, this video is something that Evan is requiring if you're going to be doing a TLA interview with him. So he's going to kind of overview a lot of the different things right there, and just how to show up the right way, what to expect if you do get accepted inside the Leadership Academy, and what it's gonna do for you, and some of the future roles that you guys can go out there and achieve that we didn't get enough time to talk about during this. But Lindsay has one little thing to say, and I'm going to get the video ready for you guys.
Yeah, so just as a quick heads up too, I realized some of you were at SC3, so a few of these things might be repeat from that, as Evan talked a little bit about TLA. My challenge for all of you is, if you're like, okay, well, I heard this before, create a checklist of these things and say like, okay, I know I need to be at 6K now. Have I done that? Check. He talks about resume, like, okay, I need to make sure I do that. Check. Have I set up my interview time? Some of these things, just to preface, is going to be a little bit of repeat, but I just wanted to challenge all of you. If you've heard it before, ask yourself, is it done? Have I implemented it? So.
All right. So let's go ahead and get the video all nice and ready. 1 second. Can everybody see my screen? Is my background loud a little bit? Okay. I'm going to go get it turned down. People decided to watch movies. The perks of working from home. All right.
All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Evan.
Can you guys hear that?
I can play it if you'd like me to.
No, I got it.
In the first part of our TLA interview process.
Did you guys hear that before I paused it? Okay, cool.
All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Evan Keller. I'm the Proud Division Manager for the South Coast Division. If you're watching this video either on your own or with your team, I do want to give everybody a good luck in the first part of our TLA interview process. And I want to say congratulations on being here. If you're watching this interview process right now, that means you've met at least some minimum requirements to get the process started as you are seeking the Leadership Academy with the South Coast Division and Vector Marketing. I want to explain the interview process for everybody that is applying for our TLA positions. The first part, as you are well aware now, is going to be a video portion that will be heavy information based. So I'm actually going to encourage you, if you're watching this video right now, it might be something you want to revisit. Definitely take some notes on it for people that
Sorry.
A lot of things from this process and all the information that I go over in this video today. And part 2 will be an individual one-on-one with myself. So you will have to speak with your district or branch manager about the minimum CPO requirement in order to sit down with me one-on-one to interview for the TLA position. So for us, here's our objectives. We want to find the best talent in the South Coast Division. That is my #1 objective as your division manager, and I want to help build our championship team with great people. The South Coast Division is already doing phenomenal. We've had a lot of success over the years, but we're continuously looking to improve our organization with new leaders in it. And so we're looking to build our championship team. You may have seen these many times already before, but I think it's good to review the anchors of the South Coast Division. We're helping individuals working with us, and the expectation is to become the best version of themselves while they're with us. Explosive team building in the South Coast Division by social media and PR team building. Also having high standards of sales performance. If you're watching this video, it's very likely you're coming off our SC3 push period, so we're looking for our top performers. And of course, we have high standards for having an aggressive pursuit of growth. And that's what we're really looking for in our division. That's what people are seeking for the Leadership Academy, so they can gain skills outside what they would normally get at school and growing themselves personally, professionally, and financially. So I'll review that today. And our #1 objective is to create 5-star recruits. That, by the way, is not only a South Coast thing. That is a Western region thing. That is a company thing. That is our philosophy, is to help create 5-star graduates when they get done with school, so people have a lot of options. And if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you know a lot about the Leadership Academy already, but you might be saying, well, what is the Leadership Academy? And every great company out there is going to have some version of a Leadership Academy. As you can see, Harvard Business School is going to have a version of their Leadership Academy that's going to be geared towards certain majors. But in fact, many great companies that are out there, big companies, Amazon, Nike, Apple, McDonald's, etc., are all going to have Leadership Academy type programs for their people that are working with them to get in, to apply for, to develop and become better in their organization. Any great organization is going to work hard to develop, cultivate, and generate more results from the talent that are in their organization currently. And that's what we want to do here in the South Coast Division. And obviously we work with a lot of younger individuals, Generation Y, 17 to 25-year-olds. And they say a lot of different things about this generation. And I realize some people that are watching this interview might not be in that generation right now, but we like to say Generation Y not, that these individuals are the future. And Vector Marketing is the #1 and largest recruiter of college students in the nation right now. And we believe that these individuals have a lot of promise, have a lot of potential, and we want to help those individuals develop those traits and those skills while they're working with us. And hopefully there's going to be some light bulb moments for you during this interview, and also after this interview, for you to be thinking about what is going to be next for you and why the Leadership Academy will be a great fit and something worth going after. Now, the Leadership Academy, our students that are applying for this position, yourself included, people are really looking to be able to separate themselves from their peers. And with the environment right now in 2020, with COVID, with the market, with the job market, what's happening in students, it's going to be very interesting to see what the future holds. But we know one thing for sure is that students want to be able to separate themselves and get skills for their resume that are going to make them stand out. And unfortunately, for a lot of students out there nowadays, things are going to be bleak. Whether it's going to be the low starting dollar amounts that people can make right out of college, how very few people are finding a job in their career path, or it's taking them a long time, or many people are actually moving home back with mom, or 2 out of 5 students are actually getting a job offer upon graduation. They're not getting those options. We want to make sure that we're able to help them through that process in our Leadership Academy. So the Wall Street Journal sums it up and says today's youth favors entrepreneurism, but few have skills, according to a poll. And this was done years ago, obviously, but I think it's more important now today than ever. And this is becoming stronger and stronger in our climate. They're saying college students that are sold Cutco are shortening the process on their way to becoming entrepreneurs, whether they stay with Vector or they move on to other careers. And we've shown this slide many times, but obviously being a top company and a partner with DECA, the company of the year in 2017, in fact, and DECA is designed to help their students get a leg up as they go into college college and beyond. It's been so great to be involved with these types of companies. Also, Inc. magazine wrote this interesting article. It says how to sell if you hate selling. And I think it's so important for our students nowadays to understand the value of learning sales skills. And so it says that if you still hate selling, I strongly recommend that you put those old beliefs aside and you change your attitudes. After all, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to sell in order to be successful. Whether you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be an entrepreneur, an engineer, you're going to be a businessman or businesswoman, having some baseline sales skills are so crucial for success. And it says, learn to love it and you'll achieve your goals far faster. So this is what our students are focused on learning while they're in school. There's an interesting article that was put on the frontrowfactor.com where John Vroman, who is an alum of our company, interviewed Jeff Hoffman, who is the co-founder of Priceline, and basically was talking about the big lessons that came out of this article. And what Jeff Hoffman talked about in this article was the value of solving problems and partnering up, and how it's so important for individuals in any organization to be a problem solver, not a problem reporter. That's something that we teach in the TLA. And then also partnering up, getting around great people. And so one of the things that our division, amongst all divisions in our company, talk about is the circle of influence and who they're being influenced by and talk to on a daily basis. And the people that we surround ourselves with is absolutely going to make a difference. And they're going to have a circle of people that they're going to learn from and that they're going to be getting coached by. They're also going to have people they're going to learn with. So I think about that being the value for our Leadership Academy, a bunch of individuals and peers learning and growing together. And then there's also going to be people that they're going to be mentoring and coaching. So I think about our next level group for our Leadership Academy individuals that are going to be going through their second, third, fourth, or even fifth time through the academy, and how they're going to be able to mentor and teach other people. And there is a big indication in people's success with who they get around. And I think about our top people and our events and our leadership crew getting together, putting on great events for our people to be together, to learn, to network, to up-level their skill sets. And so this is one of the individual reasons why people want to be a part of the academy, so that they get a chance to move up and move on because of the people that they're involving themselves with on a regular basis. Also, something that I want to transition to that I think is so important right now is that we're seeing in our climate is that they're saying that skills are much more held in higher value than degrees nowadays, or even the value or the quality of the school that somebody graduated with, or the GPA that they have. Trump signing an executive order to having people prioritize job skills over a college degree. Now, of course, a college degree and getting a great GPA is all fine and well, but now the prioritization of skills is so valuable for people because so many people are going to college that it's not looking as impressive anymore. It's not actually what's needed. You hear more and more stories of people not being in school and taking a different path, oftentimes an entrepreneurial-like path, and being a raving success because of the skills that they've acquired that are going to be paid handsomely in the marketplace. So we want to help our students create options via skills, and that is a big thrust for our TLA program. This interesting article that came out in May of 2015 is 5 skills that college students need to get a job and things that they need to be good at. And I think these are truer even now today than they were 5 years ago. But the ability to work with people, the ability to solve problems, oral communication, the ability to have leadership on their resume and not just reading it in a book or taking a leadership class, but actually putting it into practice and gaining that skill, and of course, written communication. Because the future of our TLA, the future of our world is going to be spread in many different areas, whether, like I said, they're going to be pursuing the teaching path or an entrepreneur. They want to get into business. They want to get into the medical field, the engineering fields, whatever space they want to get into. We want students focused on gaining skills while they're part of our organization. So we're talking to our TLA about getting more life education, about getting more involved, not only with themselves, with their team, with their community, and then obviously that will trickle out on a bigger scale as well. Getting more practical skills while they're working with us, and then getting more energy. So these can be situations for people that start to spring into effect where they say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm improving in all of these areas. And so we really are going to talk about skills that people are not always learning in school. So many people are on a track right now to go to school. They're taking a variety of different classes. However, Textbook knowledge and in-classroom knowledge is vastly different than what people are actually learning when their boots are on the ground, when they're working with people, when they're working with customers, when they're working with teams, when they're building out an organization. So these are skills oftentimes that are not always learned in school. So while you're interviewing for the TLA, you might be asking yourself questions. Well, what exactly is it that I'm going to learn in the TLA? What are the lessons that are going to be taught? And really our lessons for the TLA are going to circle around these three main areas: personal growth, professional growth, and financial growth. Helping you grow yourself personally to become the best version of you, getting professional skill sets that actually transcend outside of the business world, and then financial skills and financial acumen to help you build up your wealth base. And so that's something that's always a hot topic for the students that we're teaching. The TLA lessons are going to be typically in these five main areas: on money, time, energy, others, and self, and how to manage these five crucial areas. And again, a lot of times these are just not focused on in the classroom or in a college textbook. And so our students are craving, they're desiring to learn these skill sets, because I think we can all agree that these are things that are really going to matter in our life, and it doesn't matter what path we take, they're going to affect every single one of us. So one of the skills, I'll talk particularly about some of the hot button topics that we talk about in terms of money. Some popular topics there that we discuss is wealth building, how to start their retirement accounts, how to save $100,000 by the time they get done with college or graduating debt-free. Also talking about how to improve credit scores, how to budget their money, how to purchase their own house. Those types of things are always big hits for our TLA. We talk about time management when we talk about executive planning, making a month plan, a year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, executive business planning, and how to create a business plan. That's really valuable for our students. We also talk about how to manage energy, and individual energy is so important in terms of routines and rhythms that they're going to work on in their life to increase their own personal energy so they can show up better in life on a day-to-day basis and with their teams and their other people. We talk about how to manage others, from managing teams is a very popular topic, to running events, to public speaking, and then of course how to manage self. So things about staying self-motivated, staying sparked and inspired in terms of what they're going to be doing on a regular basis. So these are some topics that we want to do. And so throughout these lessons, we want to create a lot of light bulb moments for our division, for our leaders that are working with us, so that way they're off to a better start. And lastly, I also want to mention about this is that our individual students start to get that moment where they go, hey, this is something that I want to do through college. When they're thinking for this at a very young age, they can say, hey, I can learn these skill sets. I can get ahead of my peers. I can advance at a different level. So that way, by the time that I'm done, and I go through college, whether that's a 2, 3, 4-year track, depending on where they're at in school, they can get very excited about who they're going to become by the time they're done with school. And that's why we talk about becoming a 5-star recruit. We definitely recommend everybody going to the Changing Lives podcast. Of course, it can be downloaded on any podcast, but Dan Cassetta, our region manager, put this on, and Jeff Gamboa has a great message on there about Cutco through college, which talks about a lot of these exact topics, and he's helping spearhead this for our company, so that way Vector and Cutco can be the company that changes and influences and impacts more people on a macro level because of the influence that we're going to have with people at a very young age. So that's what makes our TLA program so influential and so valuable, is because we are handling and dealing with people at a very young age, not when they're working professionals at 30 or 40 or 50. A lot of students, 17 to 25-year-olds, and setting themselves apart, so valuable. He talks about the TLA track. And I think this is valuable for your notes. Most of you who had just started this summer, it's all about selling and earning your spot. So that's what I've been working hard for during the push periods all summer, to make a statement, to get a chance to interview. And then during the fall, winter, and spring seasons for us, people will be training and learning for leadership positions for the following summer. And that might create opportunities for people to run a branch office, their second summer on the job, and their third summer could run a second branch, or they decide, I don't want to manage people, I don't want to build a team, I want to be a sales professional and be exposed to our fair and show program and our events team. And then summer 4, by the time that they get done with school, they can be in a position to be a district manager or a career position or a Cutco sales professional, or they become a 5-star recruit. And so they get a chance to have a lot of options on their table. And then I realize some people that are interviewing might be more on an accelerated track. Either you're older, or maybe school just isn't for you. You don't see value in the traditional collegiate path, and you want to get on a more accelerated track with us. And that could even look like selling one summer and then earning your spot through the TLA program and training to actually become a district manager. a full-time career professional or a Cutco sales professional 8 months later with the proper training and an accelerated track. But our main goal, like I mentioned before, is to create these 5-star recruits. And that's why we recommend people are listening to this and being aware of what the Cutco through college opportunity can be for people. And I love this question. We've spread it around a lot, but that idea for a lot of people is, hey, what's better, graduating than working 30, 40, 50 years to make 6 figures? And that's what a lot of people would say is pretty successful, right? Anybody that's making 100,000 plus or plus is doing very well for themselves. Or I think what clicks for a lot of our students is, hey, when I'm young, can I take advantage of getting ahead and creating more separation with my peers if I'm working 2 or 3 years to gain skills through college to become more marketable through the Leadership Academy, to make even more money in the future, to have more skills, to make more impact, and to have more influence? And I think that question creates a lot of light bulbs for a lot of people where they say, this is definitely worth my time, and this is something that I want to get in the future. So let's talk about the leadership options, so that everybody knows what's on the table and what people can be shooting for. Once somebody goes through the Leadership Academy as they're training and learning, it's going to open them up for leadership positions next summer. That's our main season. And so people will basically sift into different areas. Either they'll be a sales leader, an assistant manager, branch manager, or a district manager, depending on their path. And what's great for a lot of individuals is that some people come into the TLA, they might not know what they want to do next summer. They might want to just keep their options open, and I love that position, but you never know what people will sift into. And some people by November or December will already know what track they're going to be on. Maybe they're going to be more on a sales leader track. Maybe they'll be more on assistant manager type, or maybe that person is really advancing in that group, in their TLA group, in their TLA class, and they're a top performer, and they're on track to actually run a branch manager, be a branch manager position for next summer. So how does a branch manager get started? What does a branch manager do? So our branch manager is our college student business internship program. That's the simplest way to describe it. It is being an entrepreneur for the summer. It's 3 or 4 month position where our students will go out for the summertime and they will start their business. So there's a couple of different models for people to start their own business. One model is a traditional startup, and that one can have the biggest reward, but it's also the biggest risk. It's a traditional business startup is having an idea, starting something from scratch, seeking investor funding, venture capital, maybe angel investment to start their business without models in place and programs in place. So again, much more risky, but very, very big upside if it hits. A franchise model is also very popular. That would be like having a Jimmy John's or a Chick-fil-A or a McDonald's or something to that nature. However, they have programs that are in place and a tried and true program. However, to own a franchise, that can be anywhere from $250,000 to upwards of $1 million just to open up a franchise if somebody wants to run that business model. A vector branch model is somewhat similar of those two, kind of meshed together, but on a much lower risk scale. Our branch managers actually will be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. And they'll open up a business and they'll be in charge of a market that I will give them in the South Coast Division that they will earn a spot for, and the territory where they will manage their individuals that are working with us. And those branch managers will also have some startup money from the company that they will give our students thousands of dollars to start their business. And also the students will bring a couple $1,000s to the table as well as an investment, mostly for personal expenses for their businesses for the summertime. And so what does a branch manager do? What would the responsibilities be in the summer? Well, essentially our branch manager, our students in the summer internship position, will be responsible for recruiting individuals in their territory and their market. They'll be required to train those individuals, build a sales force and a sales team, and generate sales and have sales management. They'll be responsible for rep development, and they will also be responsible for sales leadership training for those individuals. So it's an amazing experience for their resume. At the end of the summer, they will go back to school and resume their fall semester, presumably that they're going to be returning back to school. Now, what does a district manager do? A district manager is a career position. They actually do the same things that a branch manager does, but it is in a career capacity. A lot of times, they've either not chosen the college path, they've gone on an accelerated track to be a district manager, or like myself, when I graduated from school, that was my first career out of school. And our district managers, like I mentioned, is a career position. It's like Vector's MBA. And it's like a master's in business administration. And so a lot of people will pay a lot of money to go get their MBA, $30, $40, $50, $70,000. And some of our students, when they get done with school, they decide to forego that. And they want to get a real life MBA, so to speak, that we call it, where they actually are working and building a sales team. It's next level 5-star experience. And for some of our district managers, in fact, it's a holding pattern for them where they're a district manager for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Well, they're actually figuring out what they want to do. So I tell all my district managers, it's a great first career to do right out of college that they can earn a spot for with Cutco, even if they don't know exactly what they want to do when they graduate. So it's a great way for them to get skills and experience. And so for our managers, they would essentially manage teams and manage people. So for individuals that are into that, and our district manager opportunity is fantastic. Obviously, we have a lot of perks, travel, trips, things like that. They get a BMW after a year and a half on the position. They can win Rolex watches, and of course, they have a legitimate six-figure income opportunity. They can earn $100,000 plus in a year. So the income opportunity is pretty limitless for them. And I basically just tell our district managers, like high-paid teachers, and they get a chance to train all the individuals in their market and build out their team and build assistant managers and develop new branch and district managers as well. And then, of course, we have our CSPs, our Cutco Sales Professional opportunity, which is an independent selling opportunity, and the Fair and Show and Realtor opportunity and client management is so amazing for them to do that. So there's really no ceiling for them to earn, no ceiling and cap on their income. So those are for people that don't necessarily want to manage a team. They want to go be an independent sales rep. So if they want unlimited flexibility and then an income opportunity as well, that's a great opportunity that they can acquire after they go through the TLA process. So I want to talk about earning a TLA acceptance. I mentioned what our leadership positions are going to be next summer that we're going to be training and interviewing and developing our leaders for. But the process for this is essentially for our individuals that are watching this interview right now is you want to get a one-on-one interview. So there is a CPO minimum requirement. So talk to your manager about that. They will communicate that to you. By the time that you're watching this video and the time that interviews can actually happen, you can make a move to get your CPO to that target level. Also, after the interviews are going to be happening is we're going to have a division challenge week and where people can have a statement. So once people interview with me, I feel like people can interview very well often, but I want to know what they do after that. And I'm really interested to see how people can be consistent and finish the summer really strong. And then our acceptances are going to be done for the TLA by the time we get to Conference of Champions, which will be the middle of September. So within that window between the middle of August to the middle of September, all of our TLA acceptance will have gone out by that time for our 2021 class. So let's talk about the time commitment for people that they need to know what they would be looking to get out of this and what time commitments, particularly what will be happening for our students while they're in school. Some of you are going to be tremendously busy. And we've had students that have worked with us that are athletes that are taking 16, 18, 19 units, double majors, and they're still able to get this done. We designed this purposefully so that the time commitment is not overwhelming. If it was overwhelming, also people wouldn't be able to apply for this position, and we want to make sure we're able to work with our best talent. So for the TLA, the time commitment looks something similar to this. We basically have monthly sessions and weekly sessions. So we have our fall TLA and our spring TLA. It's comparable to taking an extra 1 or 2 credits is effectively the way that I look at this. Our weekly sessions might be as short as 30 to 45 minutes before the team events on Wednesday nights. And our monthly sessions are once a month, a couple hours. So that's really all that we would look for in terms of a time commitment, no matter if a student's going away to school, if they're going to be local in their area, if they're going to be selling part-time in the fall, or they're going to be focused more on the winter break program. None of those things matter too much in terms of their commitment level for the time that goes into the TLA. So once again, we have our monthly sessions. Those are once a month for a couple of hours. And then we have our weekly session somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes. So not much of a time commitment there, but definitely possible for all of our students that are applying with us. And then there's obviously going to be a lot of value in having options. So I'm going to mention this for the people that are interviewing. You want to make sure that you put yourself in a position of choice and you have a lot of options that you can look for in the future. So options are a great place to be. Now, most people that go into the TLA are going to be in a situation where they know they want to move up. They very likely want to become assistant managers or eventually become branch managers. There's also going to be some of you that are interviewing that might not know what you want to do in the future with Cutco, whether it's a sales leader, assistant manager, branch manager. You might just have your hands up, just like people going to college they go in undeclared because they want to stay open. And that's a great way to go into TLA to kind of learn, because for us, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to know by November or December what candidates are going to be for the right position, whether they're going to be tracking to be a branch manager, following summer tracking to be an assistant manager, or just tracking to be a sales leader in their organization the next summer. All positions are valuable, but obviously our highest performers and our top stars, so to speak, are going to be vying for our coveted branch manager positions as well. So it's good to have those options no matter what. Even I've had people come into our TLA program with no expectation in terms of what they're going to do, and they pan out to be a branch manager. And there's some people that come in want to be a branch manager, but they might not have exactly what it takes their first round in TLA, so they become an assistant manager that next summer, which is a great position. Then they do TLA again round 2. They continue to up their game as the next level group once they've gone through multiple TLAs, as they learn content and more advanced content for our TLA, and then they graduate into a branch manager position. So both paths are excellent. So I like to mention that for everybody. However, I do want to let you know, when you do earn an interview with me one-on-one, for those of you that already know that you do want to be a top performer, Evan, I would like to be a branch manager. I'd like to be considered. I want to be a serious candidate for that. That is a great thing to let me know during your interview, so I can obviously see right off the bat who wants to get the edge on the competition and who wants to be committed to train at a different level so that they get the top opportunities next summer so they can more quickly become a 5-star recruit. So here's what I'm looking for. Obviously, we're looking for overall commitment from our individuals. We're looking for people who are committed for the process through the fall and spring TLA. Like I mentioned earlier, the time commitment is definitely not strenuous, but we're looking for people that are looking to complete the program, grow within it, stay committed to working with their manager, and committed to improving in our business. These are things that are very valuable for me. In terms of accepting somebody, I'm also looking for just my personal evaluation of that individual, how they do in the one-on-one interview, what has been my impression of working with them in the division throughout the course of the summer. And then, of course, the local manager evaluation matters a lot to me. So after the interviews, I consult with all my managers to feel who would we think is going to be the best fit for the culture of our TLA for the class of 2021. And then, of course, we're looking for individuals that have financial responsibility. So a big part of our TLA program that we focus on is money and helping our students build wealth. It's our target to help as many students as possible graduate debt-free or even save $100,000+ by the time they get done with school, which is possible with our aggressive income opportunity and our commission structure. But we want to make sure those individuals are saving money. So one thing worth writing down in your notes is that part of our South Coast Division is we have a forced withholding where our students are saving money on a weekly basis, a percentage of their paychecks, so that way they can start to stack and build their wealth, which is a very simple money wealth building strategy and principle that you need to enact and put into place if somebody wants to build true wealth. But also we're looking for people that can actually save money and take care of their dollars. For our branch managers, they need to save a certain amount of income in order for them to get a branch manager promotion. We cover that during the TLA. But for our company, for them to give branch managers startup money, several thousands of dollars in capital that they help our branch managers start their entrepreneurial internship in the summertime, we want to make sure that those students are fiscally responsible and saving money. So that's really important. And then, of course, lastly, what I'm looking for is people that are going to make a statement. So I'm definitely going to look at summer CPO talks in a very large way. And I'm going to look at past performance. So expect to ask about that in the interview process, and then obviously how people are going to finish the month of August and what they're going to be doing in the month of September, depending on what their school situation is going to look like. So we're definitely looking for people who are going to finish out the summer really strong. So the next step for everybody here is going to be just some simple assignments. So here's some things to add down to your list.
All right, get these down.
Make sure that you get added to the TLA candidate WhatsApp. So your managers will help you with that. In fact, our ST3 Push Alliance will be transitioning into our TLA potential candidates for interviews. Make sure that you get on and stay on my radar with hot updates, right? $500 plus CPO, 15, 20 recommendations. Make sure that chatter is going. If I'm getting a lot of hot updates, that's definitely a great thing for your radar. And sign up for Conference of Champions, which will happen in the middle of September. And also we'll be announcing a lot of our TLA members. You'll know if you've been accepted to the TLA by then, certainly. Number 4 is CPO talks. So we're looking for people that have a strong August finish. And what I'm looking for mostly is people that are consistent. So I'm not really looking for someone that can have a big SC3 performance, but then nothing after. I'm more interested in the person who can just be consistent, or even someone that doesn't have a great push performance, but they finish August strong. Those are students I'm really excited about working with and giving openings into our TLA. And then confirming your one-on-one with your manager if you're going to be having a one-on-one with me, or you might be having a one-on-one with your individual manager. So I want to say to everybody, whether you're watching this video on your own, you might want to review it again, or you're watching in a group, you want to take some notes. I will be asking a lot of things during the interview that I covered during this section when we have our brief one-on-one interview for those that have earned that spot. But I do want to say good luck in the Leadership Academy process. I'm really looking forward to working with our new leaders and the individuals that are going to be a part of our team. So if you get inducted and accepted to our Leadership Academy for 2021, I'm very excited to build with those people for the future of South Coast. All right, thanks very much.
All right, cool. So hopefully you guys got some good stuff right there. I know I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Lindsay wanted to highlight a couple things before we wrap up tonight. But you heard him say CPO talks, all right? And with selling Cutco, you're not selling Cutco to impress Evan, right? You're not even selling Cutco to impress your managers. You're selling Cutco for yourself, right? You're doing that to help fuel whatever it is that your dreams and aspirations that you guys have, or just maybe just some flat out like serious stuff like I gotta pay for my rent, I gotta pay to eat, right? So that is why you sell Cutco. I know we have lots of like contests and things, and there's always something going on, right? That's just kind of like the byproduct of just your consistency, and that's something that Evan wants to see is consistency, right? Try to avoid having like a goose egg week, right? Even like this week, right? I know like the weekend's tomorrow. How do we figure out how to get you on the board for the week if you're not already, right? And have like consistent work weeks. And then also, that's another thing you can add on to your resume, right? Like, hey, the big reason why I got accepted into the Leadership Academy with my company, my past company, was I was one of the most consistent representatives on the team. I always showed up. I always delivered. I always worked super hard. All right. So just remember that going forward. Lindsay, did you want to add a couple things?
Yeah, I was just going to talk a little bit about now that everyone has kind of how to show up, how to build your resume, the whys behind TLA, what you're going to learn, is what the interview process is going to be like. So obviously, Evan's questions will differ depending on what you're at in sales for the business, your long-term goals with Cutco. So more so what I want to talk about is just a few things to be aware of that he's going to ask, but more so any interview that you get in, you should be aware of these things. So I would grab back your notes. So first things first, all of you have been trained now on how to build rapport. Use those skills when you're in an interview. So in person, notice things that are on the wall about them. Doesn't have to be that person's life story. I would not ask an interviewer when I go in like, okay, so tell me about your family and your kids and your home and everything that you're passionate about. But basics, hey, how's your day going? Hey, how have you liked working with the company? How long have you been here for? What's been your favorite thing? Basic questions to dig in a little bit with them. Now, when you're interviewing with someone, do not dominate the interview. So what I mean by this is Teresa should not go, hey, tell me about your life and your job and everything about it and what was good here, what was bad, how long have you been here. Don't start taking their job from them. But they're going to remember you more if you ask a couple of these questions and you've done your research. I realize with Vector and Cutco, a lot of you had a very minimal understanding when you applied of what the job is. You're like, I think I'm selling something, customer sales and service. I saw base pay, $20. I saw work from home. I was like, sign me up. That was probably most of your experiences. When you are applying for positions, make sure you understand the position you're applying for and ask key questions with that. So things that you can ask about Evan, aside from just, hey, how's your day going? AKA any interviewer, is what's been your favorite experience with the company? What's been a challenge that you've experienced? What is something you're looking for? What are key character traits you're looking for people in the Leadership Academy or applying to other positions here? And then I would also challenge all of you, no matter how long you see yourself with the company, whatever position you're going after, same thing with any future jobs, ask about advancement, because every single company is looking for new leaders. So even if you're applying for someplace where like, this is just a short-term job, I need a little bit of extra income. Ask them about what their advancement opportunities are like, and you're going to stand out because they're already impressed that day one, you want to know what it looks like to be a leader here. You want to take on extra responsibility. So as far as basic questions go, you should understand how to talk about yourself. Like summary of yourself. I went to this high school. I'm going to this college. This is my general goal. It's okay if for most of you are like 17, 18, 19, you don't know what you want to do long-term for the future. It's okay. But you should have a general idea of the goal you're going for. You should know some of your strengths. You should know some of your weaknesses or things that you can improve on. And you should also have a basic understanding of the positions that Evan just talked about. So if you're like, I still don't know exactly what a branch does, I'm still not exactly sure what an AM does, rewatch this video before your interview. So that way you have an understanding of all the different positions that we do. Other than that, I have the Google Drive that I was going to send out. I sent it to John here as well, so we will share that with you. It's going to have examples of the resumes, so you can all edit, copy and paste if you would like, but you can edit it. I recommend for yourself, create your own. And then also just some general interview tips for all of you here. All right, that's what I got.
All right, cool guys. Well, we are done with this now. Now the like every event, the best way to take all this information is to put it into action. All right, so I'm gonna leave my Zoom up for anyone that wants to stick on and phone jam. I highly recommend it if you don't have demos tomorrow and Tuesday. Big reason why our office and why our division does so well is because we just dominate Mondays and we crush Tuesdays. So that the Sunday night phone jam is always super important. And yes, people are still up. Right, like everyone's up. They're just hanging out, watching TV, watching movies, doing whatever you do on a Sunday evening. So I would definitely at least get like a 30-minute phone jam in, an hour for those of you guys that have bigger goals. And let's finish this summer strong, all right? Because like he's gonna make his final decisions on like who's gonna be in the TLA probably by like the end of the month. And like we're already like looking for our future branches for next summer. So the best way to do that, to secure your role, is just to crush the rest of the summer and dominate August. All right, guys. But thank you guys for being on. Thank you guys for being on like the whole time. Thank you guys for being engaged. And let's crush these interviews and let's dominate. Let's continue to build the empire. All right. And by the way, guys, Riverside, we're all together here. We're part of the Inland Empire. We're building something really special. All right. It's called the Inland Empire, but we're going to build our own Cutco Empire here. And I'm excited to build it with all of you guys. So let's keep growing. Stick on if you have questions.